Hi, my name is Madeline Chauvin, and this is my first book critique of the semester. For my first book, I would like to talk about The Song of the Water Boatman and Other Poems. This book is quite interesting because it offers children exposure to a variety of poem types, as well as vivid illustrations and informational text on the side describing the different animals portrayed in the illustrations. The author is Joyce Sitman, the illustrator is Becky Prange, the genre is poetry, children's picture books, and informational books. It won the Calcutta Medal, and the reading level is pre-K through third. And for my lesson plans I will be describing next, I chose to do a first grade language arts and science lesson plan. My first lesson plan for first grade is science. The content statements for this lesson plan are living things have basic needs, which are met by obtaining materials from their physical environment, and living things survive only in environments that meet their needs. If I were to teach this lesson plan in a true classroom, this book and lesson plan will be used in support of an ongoing class science unit which explores ecosystems and food chains and webs. This particular lesson plan would occur while learning about the wetland/marsh ecosystem. Before reading, students will be engaged in a class discussion about wetland marsh ecosystems. Questions include: how many of you have been to a pond? What kinds of animals might you see at a pond? What kind of plants might you see? Do you think a pond environment is wet, dry? Close your eyes and imagine being at a pond. What sounds do you hear? And all of these answers can be written on a whiteboard, in their science journals, or just verbally. The teacher will then read the information on the sides of the pages where there is a description of various animals and plants presented in the text. The poetry will be read during language arts lessons throughout this unit. So my vision for the usage of this book in a classroom is that um, it's not on this page, but on most pages there's a sidebar that says, okay, like in this poem we talk about the bullfrog, so here's some facts about the bullfrog. So only this sidebar will be discussed during the science unit, but then the poem itself will be read during the language arts unit. And I'll get into that in my language arts lesson plan. After reading the book, the teacher will assign each student a pond animal and provide them with a short information sheet for their assigned animal. Students then will be tasked with creating a simple but creative costume of their animal with parental guidance to wear to school the following week, where they will share with their classmates a few facts about their animal. Students will be sent home with an additional information sheet for their parents. So possible animal assignments are bullfrog, dragonfly, minnow, duck, and heron. These are all animals that can be found in the marshland, and it helps students take ownership of what they're learning about the wetlands by interacting with their assigned animal. So using the landing collage creative website, I created this collage of possible bullfrog costume that a child can make with their parents. And I decided to provide my students with a short information sheet because at first grade, they're not quite at the level to conduct their own research. So instead, I would want them to learn how to pull facts from a small paragraph by providing them with a small paragraph with information, and then I want them to pick two or three facts to present in their presentation to the class. Next is my reading lesson plan using this textbook, and this is an example of the informational text that you would use in the science lesson plan right here. But for the reading lesson plan, we're focusing here on the poetry. The content statement for Ohio Learning Standards is: with prompting and support, reading prose and poetry of appropriate complexity for grade 1. Activate prior knowledge and draw on previous experiences in order to make text to self or text to text connections and comparisons. Before reading the book, again, students will be engaged in classroom discussion on the topic of illustration. Which of these names is the illustrator? What does the illustrator do? And why do authors include pictures in this book? This part of the lesson plan is important because in the kindergarten to first grade years, it is important for kids to establish concepts of reading or text concepts, such as where's the page number? Where do we begin to read? Do we read from right to left or left to right? Why do we have pictures? And the simple which one is the author and which one is the illustrator when looking at a cover of a book. The teacher will then conduct an age-appropriate mini lesson on poetry. After conducting the mini lesson, teachers will select two poems from the text to read each day to the class. Before reading, show students the vivid imagery of the page, drawing attention to the different elements. Next, read the poem slowly and clearly. By drawing attention to the different elements of the pictures, it will cause students to critically think about why a illustrator may have chose those colors, those animals, the sizing, the depth, all these things. And this could also be included with or in connection with an art class. Once the poem has been read to the class, ask them to draw their own illustration for this poem in their language arts journals, asking them to properly copy the title of the book and poem onto the top of the page for writing practice. And this title and the individual poem titles will be written on the board, and students will copy it just to improve on some writing practice as well. After all the poems have been read and illustrations are drawn, students will then pick one of their illustrations to present to the class and hang on a classroom bulletin board. I chose to do two class-wide presentations for my two lesson plans in connection with this book in order to help students gain confidence presenting in front of their peers and confidence in sharing their ideas. The second book that I chose to critique as part of this first book critique is Charlotte's Web. This is a beloved story that I have read myself about a pig at a farm who was smaller than the rest of his litter, but he was befriended by the farmer's daughter. And when he grew up and he was about to, be sent to, or she was about to be sent to like a slaughterhouse, the spire that she had befriended in the barn wrote various messages in her web, which persuaded the farmer not to send her off. The author is Edie White. The illustrator is Garth Williams. It is realistic fiction and fantasy children's literature. And it is both realistic fiction because it talks about life on a farm, but it is also fantasy children's literature because the animals are talking. It won the John Newbery Medal, and the reading level is first through fourth. So much like the book that I chose for my feature text, The Song of the Boatman, both books deal with animals, but they are completely separate ecosystem slash environments. So it's exposing children to animals that live in different areas of the world and what they need in order to live and what they contribute to the world around them.